Anybody who's a friend of Mike McVeigh is a friend of mine.
Same here.
So we're sitting here in the office of actually Steve Newberry at Commonwealth Broadcasting in Glasgow, Kentucky.
I'm now adjunct faculty, or officially, at Western Kentucky University in town, and I get to be faculty advisor to what right now is a dormant student radio station. Much as you're having the same, I'll call it a problem, it's probably not, of trying to walk away from this business.
Yeah, once it's in the blood, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't,
You've done
you
it
just got to
forever.
find out where you fit now, if you
Yeah.
fit at all. And you found a really great niche, instructing and running the student radio station.
Welcome to Kismet Adventures and Serendipitous Encounters, where we explore the unexpected connections and chance moments that shape our lives. I'm your host, Kelly Orchard, and in today's episode, Radio is Not Dead, we dive into the enduring magic of radio with Dr. Ed Cohen. Join us as we uncover stories of passion, innovation, and the serendipitous encounters that keep the spirit of radio alive.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Kelly.
This was a random kind of introduction,
Yeah.
but both with a significant radio background.
Yeah.
And here we are.
And of course, Mike McVeigh.
Yeah, the Mike McVeigh connection.
Gotta have the
Yeah,
McVeigh connection.
anybody who's a friend of Mike McVeigh is a friend of mine.
Same here.
So we're sitting here in the office of actually Steve Newberry at Commonwealth Broadcasting in Glasgow, Kentucky. We're just going to have a little chat about what you do, because you're doing something very interesting now, but I'd like to hear what you've done in the past.
Okay. I got into the radio business. I talked myself into it because I don't come from a radio background or any of that. I was like every other kid way back when, that listened to the radio, hung out at night listening to it. And I was 14 years old, and a friend of mine said, this was in Rochester, New York, where I'm from, and the University of Rochester had students that were getting degrees in counseling, and they needed kids to talk to. So he said this is pretty cool. And so I got my mom to take me over there, and I ended up with a guy that was getting his doctorate. And I remember it was almost like a focus group facility. They had the one-way mirrors, and they'd record the whole thing. And one night he asked me, "What do you want to do?" And I talked myself into it. Said, "I want to be in broadcasting." And so I did. My mom worked for Kodak they were then secretaries. They weren't admins. And I remember she'd bring home Broadcasting Magazine every week because Kodak was selling film to television stations. This was in the late 60s into the early 70s. And when the Broadcasting Yearbook would come out, I'd look at it cover to cover, which tells you how I became a research nerd. And so when I went off to school, that's what I did at Michigan State. And I did college radio, did real radio, little small town radio station like this, WFYC, AM and FM in beautiful Alma, Michigan. I used to drive my brand new 74 Pinto 50 miles up US 27 every weekend to work weekends and get experience. And then went on to South Carolina to get a master's, did college radio again, and then somehow ended up with a job in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Eventually, I started in sales, and I wasn't any good at it. I left, and it was a sales intern job. It was an AM/FM TV combo, WSPA, and they had to offer me a job, and I said, no, I don't want to do it. 7 weeks later, I was back as the operations manager of their FM. So at 23, I was doing easy listening, which doesn't do well for getting dates. Yeah, my grandmother listens to that. It's great. Yeah, really into Mantovani and the 101 strings and all that. But I did that, and eventually I got into the rating stuff. We get our 1 and then 2 books a year from Arbitron, and I learned about it and got the Jim Duncan books, the American radio books, and I'd read those cover to cover. And I thought, I'd like to do this. So I went back for a doctorate at Michigan State, and then got into this end of the business from there. I started working at the NAB because we had some MSU people that went there. John Abel was at NAB, Rick Ducey was at NAB, so they hired me. And then some other different jobs. Went back for a year and taught, then ended up at Birch Scarborough. And I was just talking to Bill Engel even this morning, who was one of the 2 honchos at Birch. And I said, do you realize Birch went under almost 35 years ago? But we're all friends. It's like radio. Everybody stays friends. Went to a TV station in Pittsburgh with Cox, and eventually then ended up at Clear Channel for 5 years as VP research, and it was a lot of fun. I got to do all kinds of stuff and work out of my house in Pittsburgh.
I bet.
And then right about the time that Clear Channel bought Decor, which really turned out to be the reverse because they let Randy Michaels run everything. Arbitron came after me, so I went there and was at Arbitron/Nielsen for 16 years, VP research there. But then Mike McVeigh came along, and I ended up at Cumulus up until COVID, and more or less retired. But about 2 years ago, out of the blue, Jason Barrett, I got an email from him saying, would you like to write for me? Because I had done a podcast with somebody who was writing for him, someone I knew from Cumulus. And I said, okay. And I thought I'd run out of ideas within about 10 columns. So now for 2 years, I've been writing a weekly column for Barrett Media, just whatever the hell comes into my mind pretty much, because my assumption is I don't need another job. I'm semi-retired. So I can say, unlike most people who write for the trades, they're looking for business. And if somebody came my way business-wise, sure, maybe on a consulting basis, but I've not been looking for any. I don't need it. Therefore, I can say whatever I think as long as it's not libelous. And so I've been doing that for a couple of years. Moved to Bowling Green, Kentucky about 2 years ago at the same time as I started writing for Jason. And now it's taken a while, but I'm now adjunct faculty, or officially, at Western Kentucky University in town, and I get to be faculty advisor to what right now is a dormant student radio station. It is on the air, but it's just automated. No student has done anything live in about 2 years, so I'm going to try to bring it back from the dead.
Wow.
And make it part of the community. 1300 watt FM, Revolution 91.7, and I think it can do a lot. It's just we've got to bring the students back in, got to do it right, got to appeal to them, trying to build connections back in with the local music scene, which is pretty big in Bowling Green. It's more than you would expect. A lot of good people there, and also the proximity to Nashville.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, we're an
because
hour
it's
from
so close to
Nashville.
Nashville, it makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people in town, and so trying to pull all that back together, it's going to take at least a year, I figure, to get this really going again.
Right.
But I think it can. They've got a really nice facility, great studios.
But if you're gonna, I'm just like, all of a sudden I'm brainstorming ideas here.
Yeah.
You could use those musicians to do live local music,
Sure.
and that would definitely bring in that student body audience.
I think there's some of that, and even what they have on campus. I've
Right.
had weird ideas in my head about things like getting the Western Kentucky choir to do IDs, to almost singing jingles, but done with the
With
students.
the students.
With
That's
students.
a great
because
idea.
it's
Yeah.
word of mouth. The best
Right.
thing you can do is, if
Get
you
them
did that,
involved.
how many of them would go tell 5 other people? You know what I did today? For the student radio station, we did a singing thing for them, or you just stop students on the street and say, hey, I'm Joe from Paducah at WKU, you're listening to that kind of thing. And they'll tell 3 more people, and eventually it will build. We need to do things like apps and streaming and all. It's a mess right now, but it's going to get fixed.
Well, you sound like you have a really great running start in your head. So
yeah,
how
in my
long-
head.
In your head. So when did you start, or have you not started yet?
I just got the keys to the studio. Dale and I were in there last Friday. It's the first time I've been in there. I've met with other people. It's a strange situation. The station is partially under the School of Media, and it's partially under public broadcasting over there, which is probably not good, but we're going to see how it works out. So I've met the various people, and I'm coming from analog world. I haven't done an air shift since 1987. So to me, it's still vinyl and carts, which of course is useless. As I told Dale, it's like being Rip Van Winkle, and you wake up after all these years and you go, there's a board, there's a microphone, there are meters. Yeah, okay, now what? Now, how do you do anything? And that's where I'm starting from. So I'm having to learn it all again. I'm figuring it won't be too hard because the innate how to do radio. So it's going to be fun. I've got a lot of friends in the business that will help.
Plenty of resources. And vinyl's making a comeback, so you might as well get a turntable and bring in vinyl.
There's no turntable there. That's one of the things we need. But
you
the
do a
budget,
fundraiser for a turntable.
I always said I wanted to do academic stuff again when I became old and gray, or in this case, maybe just losing my hair. But that's what I wanted to do, and so I get to do it, and it works out. And a nice community. 1,300 watts will cover the main county. It's a 9-county metro, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed that it's going to work.
I love that. All right, Dr. Ed, thank you so much. Everyone calls you Dr. Ed.
I do have a PhD. I have an
Well,
earned
yeah, I know.
PhD, and I always
yeah.
tell people it's because I got sick of the Mr. Ed thing. It's amazing. People
Mr.
don't know.
Ed.
They still know the talking horse. The show went off the air in the 60s.
Yeah.
You find college students who go,
It's
yeah,
enormous.
I know Mr. Ed.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You get the Wilbur, and I've had enough of that. So I said, yeah, that's why I got
Dr.
the
Ed.
PhD, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
Mr.
Mr. Ed
Ed
anymore. I'd be Dr.
Dr.
Ed.
Ed.
And then that's
Yeah.
something else that but it's branding. It's anything else.
Yeah.
That was my brand as a research guy. And it's always funny. I did my dissertation on radio. The other part that when I got to Bowling Green, and now most states have this. Kentucky has a state law. Free tuition for anybody 65 and older at any state university, any state-supported school. So I started taking classes at Western as a student, which is very weird when you walk in and there's all these 19 and 20-year-olds, and you walk in, and I warn the instructor in advance, saying, okay, here's my background, here's why I'm there, I'm just having fun with it. I audit, but I still take everything. Well, last class was the politics of North Korea, which I thought was interesting. Before that, I took Music 320, which is rock and roll. And I guest lectured in my own class.
Nice.
Because the guy teaching it, who's a keyboard player, he's in local bands, he's my connection to local music there. But he's 27 years old. So he couldn't really explain how radio fit in with all this. So I said, look, I'm happy to do a lecture that will tell you how radio works with music and with rock music and how it got there. And he said, okay, cool, because he had no clue of it. He's not old
and
enough.
instructors are always looking for great guest speakers, so how fun for you.
So it's very strange to say, if you're wondering why one of your fellow students is now doing a lecture, here's my background, and here's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and they probably loved it.
I'm just taking whatever the hell looks interesting. If this looks like fun, I'm going to take it. Rock and roll, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Politics of North Korea, that's interesting. So I just do that for fun. And why not? When you retire, you've got something to do. But it's very hard, much as you're having the same, I'll call it a problem, it's probably not, of trying to walk away from this business.
Yeah, once it's in the blood, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't,
You've done
You
it
just got to
forever.
find out where you fit now, if you fit at all. And you found a really great niche, instructing and running the student radio station.
Yeah, I'm hoping that'll keep me going for a few more years, and then maybe I'll say, I'm too old to do this anymore. But at least if I can get it running again the way it used to be. Strange things happen in your life. You never know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, my podcast actual title, this is like a Radio's Not Dead, like a version of my podcast, but overall it's Kismet Adventures and Serendipitous Encounters.
Yeah.
Because that's what's happening right now.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
I kept ending up in Kentucky, the last place I ever thought I'd be. I can't stay away from Kentucky. It's a nice place. People don't think much about it, but it's a very cool state.
It is.
It's easy to adjust to here and get used to it.
My experience has been that I've had to rely a lot on the kindness of strangers, and believe me, there's a lot of kindness here in Kentucky.
Definitely.
There's a lot of good people.
It is. It's a fun place, and it's just interesting the people that end up here.
Yeah.
Bowling Green is, because of the university, has this kind of bunch of people that they're retired, but they stay there. They go, okay, this place is pretty nice. It's got a very reasonable cost of living, and Nashville's right down the road. If you're going to fly anywhere, you got to fly out of Nashville anyway. Radio-wise, we've got some good stations there, and hopefully WWHR over at the university is
Going to be one of
going to
them.
be competitive.
Yeah.
It's going to be good, and it's going to be different.
Good.
And a bunch of kids that are going to have a good time there and learn a lot and have memories that even if they don't go in the business, I figure most of them won't. But they'll always remember what they did there.
Yes, very good. Thank you very much for being part of my little podcast series, and it's been a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too, Kelly.
Right.
And good luck on Dead
Dead
Air.
Air.
There it is.
The day of the music
Got to
day.
do the plug.
Let's got to do the plug.